This time on Andy's Motorcycle Obsessions, we keep working on these carburetors. G'day everybody and welcome back. Yes, we're doing this in a fairly ventilated area because, whoa, man, these things are on the nose. They stunk the workshop out for days when I first opened them up. Now, I've stripped the fourth carburetor off. In the previous episode, I had to repair a broken post, and we dealt with the stuck pilot valve. So this time, I just need to pull them all apart now and get them ready to clean up, so that we can start reassembling them with the new kit. Now, they're all banked together as a group of 4 carburetors. And one of the first things we need to do is remove this choke rod. Now they have a little detent in them where these choke actuators, or it's an enrichment circuit actually, where they locate. So that just slides to the right and moves the enrichment circuit valve out of the way. Now on this particular carburetor assembly on the Suzuki, the choke is actuated by a cable, and so there's no detent, but on some carburetors, on some banked CV Mikuni carbs, you've got to watch it. If you can see a tiny little hole drilled in the end of where this rod goes through any of the bodies, like a 3mm hole, it'll have a spring and a ball in there as a detent, and it's a tiny little thing. And if you're not careful when you pull the rod out, ping, they'll fly all over the workshop and you'll never find them. So the first thing we need to do is just release the screws, and you need to wind them back a bit because they obviously travel down into that little detent. Alright, that's free to turn now. It's actually quite bent too, you'll notice. Good pair of pliers. There he goes. Just keeping everything together. So these are the little actuators. They just sit down over the top of the choke itself and pull it out. They're all the same except for the number 2 carburetor that carries the cable attachment. We'll need to straighten that and clean it up, but that's that bit. Now, alright, so the next part's to remove the rails. I've already gone to the trouble of loosening them in the vise. There was a couple of problem screws, but they were generally pretty good. And the bottom one. Now, if you're not sure about how all of this, that you're going to remember how it all goes back together, my advice is just to take photographs. Okay, so that's them, and then they just pull apart. Being careful not to damage that T-piece that runs between the carburetors. So there's a single fuel T on the GS1000, feeds in between carburetors 2 and 3, and then the fuel is carried via these little aluminium tubes between the other carburetors. So that's how it looks. Then the only thing that we have left that I really want to strip out of these, you could go completely nuts and pull the butterfly shaft out and everything, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to clean them. But the next thing that's got to come out, of course, is the enrichment choke, because it's got rubber components on it as well. Since I started my new job, I've got no spanners at home, but I still have sockets, so it's a 14mm socket. The guy should just wind out of there, like so. Yeah, they're nice and crusty. And of course there's the vents are teed together as well. So that's the fuel bowl vent. Now it would pay to mark these so you know where they go. Just get a scriber. I know that that's the number 2 carb because it's got the vacuum attachment for the petcock. Number 4 has the new post. Number 1 is the only other end carburetor, and that just leaves this one, number 3, which has the idle adjustment on it. It's a very fine thread. And one of the other things I want to do is remove the needle jets, because they're going to need a really good clean. They have a circlip in them. Now these circlip pliers you can buy from Motion Pro, and I bought these for getting down inside the master cylinder to remove the master cylinder circlip. In fact, if you search online, they're listed as a master cylinder circlip plier, but they work well with these things too because they're very deep, obviously. Plastic guy. So these have a spacer and a clip and a washer and a spring. Now it's just scrubbing. Carb cleaner, wire brushes, bottle brushes, anything you can, scrub. And after I've cleaned them all with carburetor cleaner, which helps dissolve the varnish and the residual fuels, then I'll put them into the ultrasonic cleaner and we'll give them a soak in there before I finish washing them up. So I'm doing this in a well ventilated area because these carburetors stink, and this stuff's pretty nasty, but we don't need to blow them all over the paint of the Ducati. Well, let's talk about what is and what isn't important here. While the exterior of the carburetor, it's nice to see it all clean and shiny, it's the inside bits that matter, and particularly all the little passageways for air and fuel. I'm trying to also make sure that inside the bowl area is clean too, because we don't need anything coming loose and making its way into blocking jets, etc. after we go putting all new ones in there. Obviously the gloves don't like it very much. Go for something a little bit more heavy duty. They're not as lose some of the dexterity, but I don't care. Alright. Okay, so just a bit of an explanation on one of the things you really got to take care about with these carburetors when you're cleaning them. This is the lower E string off a steel string guitar, and you can see it's threaded through these tiny little holes. This is on the enrichment circuit, and there's another hole in the top there, and that's very important that those are clear, and you should be able to put the air line on the end of that nozzle, put your finger over the enrichment port, and when you're blowing in there, you should be able to hear it moving through. And the other area where there's a sneaky little port is his corresponding hole on the float bowl. So this was what the float bowl looks like before, caked full of gunk, and this is the after. And if you peer down into that hole there, I don't know whether or not you can see, that too needs to be clear down in there, because your enrichment circuit won't work, so your choke will be playing up. You won't be able to cold start, and they're very commonly blocked. I ended up having to flood that with carburetor cleaner, and then use this guitar string, and just keep poke until I could see the carburetor cleaner starting to bubble out of the bottom here, and then blast it out with air, and I got it all free. And all of them are the same. They're all like that. But once we get the body and the float bowl to this stage, where they're all clean now, and all of the ports and airways and everything else has had a good going through, we can put it into the ultrasonic cleaner and just give it that final thorough wash. Alright, so this is another day later after I first started filming the cleaning, etc. We've got everything together now. I've saved you boring you stupid with all of the cleaning that I had to do. These emulsion tubes were absolutely disgusting. They needed little bottle brush and wire brush on the outside, and then into the ultrasonic cleaner. One of the things that you can do to try and help get through it, go and find somewhere that sells paint and spray guns, and you can buy tip cleaning kits for spray guns, and they're good for cleaning carburetors, including these little like oxyacetylene type tip cleaners that you can get down into the little holes, etc., for these emulsion tubes. They were all block solid. They're cross drilled, so you can sort of hold them up to the light and make sure that you can see through them. The needles were a challenge as well. They were very, very dirty and covered in varnish. You got to be very careful with these. You want them, you don't want to scratch them up. So the best way to clean them, I used carburetor cleaner and just sort of scraped the varnish down with my thumb. And then you get some aluminium foil and do it with the aluminium foil. That cleans them up nicely. So it is what it is. We've done the best we can with what we've got, and now I'm going to put them all together. It included standing at the wire buff wheel. I had my Bluetooth headphones on and just listening to music, cleaning screws for ages. Kid Rock, First Kiss, good album. I guess that sort of brings me to a point also that this becomes economically non-viable. So as home gamers in our sheds at home, time means nothing. You can spend as much or as little time on them as you feel that is, appropriate. If you took them to a workshop, there is probably 15 hours between repairing, cleaning, and putting them all back together. And if you're charging $90, $100 an hour, you're up over the price of a new set of carburetors. So it just doesn't become economically viable. But, it's guys like us in sheds doing these things that keep them alive and keep the skills alive. Anyway, that's enough waffle. All the I even unpicked all the old O-rings. They're still malleable. I don't have replacements for a lot of these, so they're going to get reused. I washed them in the sink upstairs in hot soapy water. So we'll get together, we'll start getting it together now. So the first thing I think I'll do is rebank them. I've just got a little bit of RP7. You want to make sure that all of these little adjusting screws for the carburetor synchronization adjustments are free to move. They're on a spring. You want them all free to move. So in these Mikuni banks, the number 3 carburetor is the master carburetor. So he's the guy in control. He's got the throttle actuator on there, and it drives all of the other carburetors. So we just essentially just need to push that spring back out of the way and click that in. So that's carburetor number 1 and 2. Sorry, number 4 and 3. And then carburetor number 2 and carburetor number 1. So yeah, so number 3 drives all of the other carburetors. So when we come to synchronize them, well, we'll go through that when we do it. Now most of the screws for this are junked. I do have a box with some assorted Mikuni screws, so the ones that are really, really bad, I'll probably replace. If you're really OCD, you can lay all the screws out, but whilst I probably suffer from that a little bit, it's not debilitating. I've loosely fitted one screw into each of those carburetors. Always pays just to get all the screws in there loosely before you start tightening things up. That way it helps line things up that may be a little bit misaligned. Alright, let's open these kits up, and actually let's put the emulsion tubes in. If you're really OCD, again, you can mark the carburetors, keep them all separately. If you were doing this for a living, you wouldn't worry about it. You'd just have parts on the shelf and you'd be grabbing them. Now, they have a key slot, and they line up with a little dowel or pin that's in the bottom. Just got to make sure they go in the right orientation. Oh, so I'll just open the kit up, grab the main jet out, and screw it into that particular carburetor. All the goodies. So there's a little brass washer that resides below the main jet. You need to be sure that the screwdriver you have fits the main jet properly. Pull him down firm. Okay, these appear to be a 115 main jet size. Pilot jet. Number 40 pilot jet. It needs to be firm in there, but it doesn't need to be that tight that you'll never get him out. New rubber bung. Lovely. Needle and seat. Uh-oh. No, these appear to be the wrong needle and seat valves. Where are they? Let's put a little bit of Let's put a little bit of slippery on there, see if I can't persuade it to push down. This is rubber grease. Ah, there we go. Just wouldn't hold my tongue right. And of course there is a retainer. My God, weren't these absolutely disgusting? They really were bad. I had no option but to grab them with pliers and put them on the wire buff wheel on the offhand grinder. And these screws, I had them in the end of a screwdriver on the offhand grinder. Flotation device. Rather than sitting there smashing it with a hammer, I'm just going to try gently squeezing that in. Now generally, I think it might have gone the other way, but anyway. Generally, the bowls will hold that in. Alright, so there we go. There we have one reassembled. I need to set the float heights yet, but I'll just whip through and put all the other ones in. Okay, let's not forget air jet. So this is the air correction jet. And he goes in here. Oh, did anyone else pick up on that? I needed to fit these before I put that bank together. If you're not sure about how all of this, that you're going to remember how it all goes back together, my advice is just to take photographs. Take photographs. My advice is just to take photographs. Strip it apart. Okay, we're back at it. So, just to be safe, while we're throwing it around, I'm going to put the float bowl on. Now Suzuki polished up the outside ones. Guess that's how they rolled. Float bowl screws were the ones with spring washers, I think. Just put 2 screws in it. Okay, so let's flip it over and put the pilot jet, the air fuel mixture screw in. Very fine needles. Bring on the little washer on. Put the O-ring on. And push the whole thing down in the hole. Gently, 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 gently. And touch down. So we've just, and I can put my finger in the front here and feel that needle. So I don't know what the factory settings are, but I'm going to go as a starting point. I'll go out 1.5 turns. Half, 1, 1.5, and that'll get us started. Right, and the only things remaining in the kit are, for whatever reason, they give you another clip for the needle valve, but they don't give you another needle. And they give you a gasket for the bottom of the fuel bowl. Don't tell me it's stripped it. Oh, we got a stripped thread in this one. But do not despair, we will fit a helicoil. Alright, we might actually be in luck here. This is a fine thread. This is the only helicoils I've got are for a coarse thread, M6. I might be able to get away with just winding a new thread in there with a coarse thread. We'll try it and see. So there we go, nothing to lose. It's a bit of a challenge because there's recesses in it for the drain function, so you can crack it and fuel runs out either side in these grooves, and they make it hard just to get a constant thread in there, but there you go, we're through. Just give that a bit of a clean out. Might get away with that. If it tries to strip when I tighten it, then we'll be back for a helicoil, but we might be in luck. I think we got away with that. Alright, emulsion tubes in that one. Break open another kit and keep moving. Oh, I tell you, I need to give it away. I need to quit while I'm ahead. I'm so tired. It's all got to come apart again. If you're not sure about how all of this, that you're going to remember how it all goes back together, my advice is just to take photographs. Just take photographs. Photographs. Think, Andy, think. Right, your rubber grease. T-piece between carburetors 2 and 3. And one of the T-pieces for the fuel bowl vent. Nearly there. Right. Hopefully that's the last time I have to do that. Okay. Slow or pilot jet. Rubber bung. Right, put the slides, needles and slides together. Obviously the spring washer, needle, spacer, And then one of these caps, they have two pins on them, and they correspond with two of the holes in the bottom here. And a circlip. So we can pop this one in. They have a tag on them and a corresponding recess in the top of the housing. Some people like to put a bit of grease on these. I'm not fussed either way, but we'll just give it a little lick. You don't want a lot on there. That tang is not there to stop it rotating, or well, it is. No, it's not. The clamping force of the lid of the cover stops it rotating. That tang is to locate it in the right orientation so that that hole is on the right side of the venturi, and that happens to be the engine side. Alright, so he's in there. One return spring, anti-flutter spring, one cap, lovely. Come on, Andy. Seriously, what separates the pros from the home gamers? Look at this. Got the writing in the wrong orientation on this cap. Doesn't matter which way it goes. Just make them all the same. There we go. I can live with myself now. Now, there's plenty of other bits and pieces still missing. We haven't got the choke on the enrichment circuit. Choke / enrichment circuit. So now we can start looking at putting all this back in. This guy went on carburetor number 2. It's carburetor number 1, this carburetor number 2. So it must have been on there like so. And then it would have had to swing around and bolt on like so. Is that right? Yep, that looks right to me. So that one went on 2, and all the others are the same. That can go on 1, that can go on there, and that one can go on there. Right. Goes in a lot easier when it's straight. Okay. Now we line up the detents and screw them home. Perfectamundo. Lovely. Right, now I've got this bad boy, which is screwed down into here to adjust the idle. All the way down till it stops. And now we're moving the butterfly shaft. That's our idle speed adjustment. Back it right off. We'll get to him later. Right. Okay, so now the only other thing to go was that, which sat there. And that's for the cable for the accelerator. And that looks a bit sad, to be honest. Not quite sure what's going on there, but for shits and giggles we shall put him in his little home That screw is cactus kaput. And because I replaced, when I did have CV carburetors, I replaced all of these with socket-headed cap screws. I probably have a few spares, so I'll dig them out, but not now. Rotary hoe. They're going to run again, and they were never going to run the way they were. Never in a million years. Righto, so what next? Next is set the float heights. So I'll need to go through them and set them according to the factory specs, and then we'll validate that, and then we'll bench tune them, and that's all we can do then until we get them back on the bike, and we can start tuning on the motorcycle once we get it running. But I'm pretty happy with that, because we went from a set of carburetors that were essentially junk to something that I believe will work, and will work fine. But anyway, that's it's been a long road, but we're nearly at the end for the carburetors. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll catch you next time on Andy's Motorcycle Obsessions. Bye for now.